Adonis, Vampire the Requiem, a Requiem for London. Tonight, we set the scene once more within the Guildhall Elysium, the heart of the city of London. Within a massive hall, set up with immaculate tables and all sorts of Baroque furnishings. Those who have the power of unnatural sight or sorcery will recognize the wards upon the entrances and the windows as you enter. Elysium itself is quite well populated, tended to by the Keeper Talib, who runs this Elysium personally on behalf of the King and the Queen. And he is a most welcoming host, albeit a little bit... a little bit devious. He seems to enjoy anticipating the sort of scandals that will be occurring over the course of the Elysium. Or the scandals that you'll inevitably end up getting engaged in. Across the Elysium you see the King and the Queen, separate tables. You see the Archbishop of the Sanctified. And Figment, you see your sire. Everybody else sees the Baron of Tower Hamlets. We will start with Balthazar. How does a Balthazar enter?
Oh shit, I forgot that my name started with a B. I screwed myself.
You fucked up.
I did.
Oh, look at all these words for the Wooloo jar.
This is not Pokemon, I can fucking swear here. Don't take that from me.
T.
Fuck, cunt. Anyway, there we go.
Wow. Balthazar's rude.
So Balthazar will enter the Elysium. He's dressed immaculately well. Silk handkerchief in his breast pocket, gold tie pin piercing his blood red tie. He is dressed, as I say, he's actually rocking his fashion, his business suit, or his power suit, as he steps into the Elysium with a click of a cane, with a gold handle. He nods politely. After all, he's come home. It's been so long since he's had to do the rigors of London social life, and let's face it, after spending all that time in Edinburgh around those pagan cultists, it's good to be back in civilization.
Indeed. And a civilization partially ran by pagan cultists.
Only partially, it's a step up.
That's a step up. Yes, Coldmorn, you will see a Melandra Silverstone, current nominal head of House Eliza. You're not sure whether or not that's going to change, given what you've been told, but she is present. She seems to be enjoying herself. In fact, she seems to be sat down with a king, which implies some heavy business is being discussed. But before we get to that, we will move on to Dr. Leia Baudelaire.
Hello.
Hello. How does Dr. Baudelaire enter the Elysium?
I do so very, very unobtrusively, and I will take a seat where it seems appropriate and take some mental notes and just pay close attention. This is my first Elysium, I believe.
Very well. You see various faces among the court. You're withdrawn. Perhaps not a very apt word, but withdrawn, a very withdrawn entry, because I can't find a better word. Allows you to observe some of the other kindred at the Elysium. A few you even recognize as Maquette, your blood drawing you in their direction. But you're not entirely sure whether they are or are not of your sect. You do, however, recognize the Baron of Tower Hamlets and Newham, a seasoned member of the Order Dracul, and your sect mate, although she is known to be a venturer, not a Maquette. Figment.
Hello.
I imagine you enter with a cadre of cottagecore witches, spraying fire and lightning bolts and flipping the tables.
Wrong types of witches.
They'll do card tricks?
They might do card tricks.
Okay.
They mostly make their own jewelry and bake bread and talk about horoscopes. But Figment will lock her bike outside of the Elysium. And,
I'm sorry, you rode a bicycle here?
Yes, I rode a bicycle here.
To be fair, it's
That's
actually a
why
better way of
that's
getting
why
around
I'm
London
here.
than using a car.
That's really cute, though.
I will lock up my bicycle and I will come in to my sire. On a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed is my sire in me these days?
You'll find out in scene.
Hooray. Still come in, look around. I kind of vaguely noticed, alright, I recognize some people. I haven't gotten out much lately as I've been very busy doing various research and trying to keep an eye on what the ghost populations of the city are doing these days. But getting out of the basement, getting some fresh air, seeing what's what in the city, as I heard there's been a lot of new people show up recently. So I'll come in and kind of find a spot to watch and see what's going on. Are there any ghosts around?
Well, you're not exactly in the crypt. You
Sometimes I hang out.
You know the crypt within the Guildhall, and there is a crypt, is well populated by ghosts. But the only ghosts you see on the main floor on the great hall you're in are the ghosts that stand by your sire as her bodyguards. You also see a couple tethered to the other Baron whom you've associated, or rather whose agents you've associated with in the past. Baron Eubanks. So, relatively short on ghosts. There are a few present. Isabel.
Isabel makes her normal entrance quietly and as unseen as possible, and she's gonna go find a nice shadowy corner to stand in, because fuck being seen or the center of attention.
Usually in contrary to your exits.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to stand in a corner. It's nice. It's cozy. Unfortunately.
You might want to take fast here.
Oh. Ah. I will unmute this ask here. There we go.
Oh, wacht, ik moet iets gaan zeggen zo.
Unfortunately as well, the corner is also occupied as you bump into an unfriendly Nosferatu.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
He, I'll give you his face claim. He leers at you with an unsettling smile as you shift away from him.
Oh, Malfan.
He'll go back to taking ownership of this corner and fade neatly into the shadows where none can see him.
Hey, I can do that too.
If only you weren't in the middle of the hall now,
I know.
with no one with you.
Oh, crap.
And nowhere to go but many occupied tables, whose many inhabitants are looking at you quite curiously.
Fuck, she's gonna find the one with the least amount of people, farthest from, or closest to the door, actually. She's gonna find the one closest to the door, and she'll take a seat at that table and just kind of punch in on herself.
You know, it's fortunate that you picked the one closest to the door. As you go to take a seat, you recognize the person sitting there. I'll give you their face claim real quick. There we go.
Oh, I don't think I remember the name of this person.
It's the person that said I'd sent you to speak with.
Oh! Oh, okay.
You've spoken with her, obviously.
Yeah. Isabel will give Francesca a nice, polite hello. Happy to see a somewhat friendly face.
Good evening. Before we get too involved in conversation, we'll start with Natalia.
Yeah, Natalia comes in looking like... almost looking like a coke addict or someone who's leaving the place where they've just bought drugs and is about to get busted, or maybe paranoid that they're about to get busted. She's looking around, she seems to be, must have been looking about something outside, who knows. But yeah, she comes in, looks around, and seems to be scanning the room, but at this point she's not finding who she wants to talk to.
You're also very cagey.
Yes.
Who is next? Percival. How do you enter?
Possible just walk in casually, go about the room, say hello to those he knows, and then find a spot where he can find a spot.
You take a seat near Harpy Adele. She is quite miserable to look at, being a Nosferatu, but she seems to be getting along with the kindred at the table quite well. You notice that Amber is not here, which is a bit odd. She rarely misses an Elysium.
That's very odd. Okay.
And Phineas. Saving the best and biggest for last.
Phineas will walk in. It's nigh impossible to miss him. He's an incredibly large lad. He'll just kind of shake off any rain that might have been pouring down, as it's London. Place his coat on a coat rack and just kind of find a seat, or attempt to, that will accommodate his large bulk.
There are few, but they exist.
Huzzah.
It is as you begin to take all of your seats and begin to sort of settle into your respective conversations. Isabel, you catch up with Francesca. Balthazar, you maybe get half an ear into what's being discussed with Silverstone. Seems like they're discussing Lady Eliza and her future. Friggin, you discover that your sire is, well, you are pleasantly surprised to learn that your sire is not immensely disappointed in you on this occasion.
Nice.
However, this may just be a polite pretense, as you're at Elysium. But, hey, it's a start. But it's halfway through your conversations that many of the kindred within the Elysium are interrupted by the sound of Talib's rather almost mockingly formulaic declaration. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the Red Knight herself, Lady Eliza, has arrived at Elysium. He bows deeply enough for it to be deeply enough for it to be understood to be both mocking but inoffensive. You will hear the tapping of Lady Eliza stepping down the stairwell. She is dressed in a rather alluring white silken gown. Her hair done up into long braids that run halfway down her back. At her side, on her waist, lies a sheathed blade, although the hilt looks rather It looks rather ornate, but it does not look conventional. And for those of you... Well, no, I think all of you could see this. Is that strange symbols seem to be engraved upon the hilt.
Do I have to roll for that blood sympathy thing? I know it already, but I think I do have to make the roll whenever I meet them.
Roll me your wits plus... Second.
It's wits and blood potency.
I'm just gonna double check that. I think there may be a few modifiers to this check. Roll me your wits plus your blood potency. Yeah, just your wits plus blood potency.
Oh, I always forget this dice roll. 2.
Okay. You do sense a distant feeling of belonging to Lady Eliza, although it is removed. You reckon you are at least 3 steps removed from her, if not more. The cool of her blood is quite distant. As she steps down, we see that she gauges the room. The way in which she does so is remarkably like Morgan. Although she does not have the the sense of wickedness you sometimes sense from Morgan. The often foreboding and cruel smile of atrocities to come. She looks at the crowd very stone-faced, but also surprisingly soft as well. She comes across as very measured as she walks down. She walks down the stairs, and as she makes her way across the threshold of the last step, she stops. Kindred of the domain. Your knight has returned. My apologies if I do not know of most of you. It has been a very long time since I was last active, and my mind is not quite as it once was. She pauses for a moment to gauge everybody. Her eyes linger on Balthazar and Silverstone and several other kindred for just a moment. I'm sure that is something a few of you will come to understand in the centuries to come. I'm glad to see that the domain has survived my slumber. Even more that it continues to be run by the apt, incapable House Valerius. And I'm honoured to be serving at the side of the crone. But it has only been a few nights since my return, and I've already heard word of troubling news. Revenants infesting our fair city. And talk of mortal interference in our requiems. This shall not stand. It is disappointing to hear that the domain has already not dealt with this problem. I remember the nights when the kindred of any given city were numbered to just a few dozen at most, when everyone knew everyone. The nights were cold, resources were scarce, havens were few and far between. And hunters running rampant. I would see to it that these nights do not return, and I give you my word, as a returning lord of the house that bears my name, that such threats will be taken care of and neutralized. I believe is the new and sanitized term for slaying one's opponent and enemies. It is a pleasure to return. She will give a rather static-looking smile upon those words. Bow before the crowd. And walk on over to the king's table. You can all roll me with socialize if you like.
Wait, socialize?
Mm-hmm. To gauge a reaction from the crowd.
Great wits.
3.
2.
1.
That was oddly perfect.
Yeah, pretty good.
Next one has to be 0.
0.
3, 2, 1, 0. And then 0, 0. Oh my god.
Oh, you can't get less than 1 success. Well, you can't get less than 0 successes, apart from the fact that that's not true. Does anybody want to take a dramatic failure? Figment,
Just
you
roll
messed it up again.
I like how Figment has proven you can't get less than 0. You just have to-
Yeah. Okay, well, Figment, I'm counting that 1 dice as a dramatic failure.
That's fine. I can dramatically fail with this.
So, it's okay. You'll get a reward at the end.
People's on TikTok not paying attention.
So, everybody who got 1 to 3 successes, as you only needed 1 success, only an exceptional is distinct here. Many people, upon hearing of Eliza's return and seeing her in person, are quite concerned. She has been asleep for quite a long time, and I'm not sure how well adjusted she is yet to modern society. Others are quite afraid of her prowess and her reputation as a Knight of the Invictus, in fear that she may take to enforcing the edicts of the king and the traditions of the kindred further than they have been thus far. She was a kindred embraced a long time ago, and some believe she may have a bit of a medieval mindset.
Is that a term I hear anywhere going around? Like, actually, like, a term of where she actually would have been from? Like, the people use verbiage that indicates that she's actually from, like, the Middle Ages.
How many successes did you get? Now I'm going to have to gauge your successes.
2.
Gosh darn it. 2?
I got 2, I think. Yeah.
You know only that she is old. You're not entirely sure to what time period.
Okay, that's what's going in my notes. She's old.
I know that she's older than Stanforth, but that's about all that I know. Stanforth, he was old when he was still embraced.
There's a lot of NPCs and voice stuff, so I'm trying to keep really detailed notes on all this.
That's fine. There's a lot of kindred in London. It's good to keep notes. And only that she is old. The kindred that seem to have this opinion are most, funnily enough, are the sanctified. The Carthians don't really have an opinion one way or the other. They're just not happy an elder of the Invictus is backing up. Many of them are rolling their eyes, assuming that the jackboots will be coming through their doors any minute now.
I'm just sizing up my boots for their backsides. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I have to get mine custom ordered.
At least I'll be prepared for it. It is funnily enough some of the Invictus that also have this opinion. Mainly the younger ones. And attitudes that Percival, you notice Adele is keeping track of. Rather, Percival actually failed, so he doesn't know that. But Adele is keeping track of things. And of various people saying various indiscreet things.
Because the mental image amuses the ever-loving crap out of me. Balthazar removes a box in the inside coat of his pocket. He opens it and he withdraws a cigar before he will light it with an electro zip lighter, so he doesn't cause a flame. Basically, obviously, you're meant to light cigars with a wooden match, but you just want to strike a flame. Before he's gonna kind of offer Phineas. He's just gonna kind of turn and offer Phineas a cigar, like, eh.
Phineas will take one, give a small nod to him, like, thanks.
Also, because the Wilson Fisk vibes are real, I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, yeah, Alley Cat, you return just in time to hear that the Elder you retrieved from Windsor has just made her appearance in Elysium. Speaking of a revenant infestation of mortals interfering in kindred affairs.
Who's saying that?
Oh, that was part of Lady Eliza's speech. Alley Cat just walks in time just to hear this speech.
Okay. I thought it was something new.
I mean, Ali walks in, lights up a cigarette, goes into a corner, and is just gonna, actually gonna keep standing. She's just kind of gonna lean against the wall.
Man. I feel like that sums up 90% of the court. We find a corner. The corner is slowly filling up with PCs.
You can share my corner.
That's fine. Do you like cigarettes?
Sure.
I'm going for a corner too.
Come to the cool corner.
Yeah, I'll come to the cool corner. You're Ordo Trek cool.
Yeah.
You.
Lady Eliza is going to walk over to the cool kids corner.
Oh God.
Oh, what did I get for my dramatic failure?
Your dramatic failure is... everybody seems to think that Lady Eliza is absolutely stand-up, one of the few good elders in the city.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's a return to form for the Invictus. Really, she'll probably be. The hope is that she'll be able to keep Morgan and the king in line.
As
Certainly
long as
not
she
enough to
stays out of my
try.
graveyard, she's okay by
mean-
me.
It's fine. I'll keep Morgan and the king in line.
Keep telling yourself that.
Haha.
So, Lady Eliza, actually, before she makes her way towards the cool kids corner, she notices Alley Cat.
Oh god.
She sits down at the king's table. That was where she was going originally. She has a sit down. You notice she doesn't look at you, Balthasar, but she just does gesture at you to have a seat at the table.
Balthazar will kind of incline his head to Phineas, who he was standing with, before he will walk forward. He's still smoking his cigar.
Sitting.
I assume we can smoke in here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course. Sitting next to the king is Lady Silverstone, and also one of the sheriffs, Sheriff Sully of the Crown, Sheriff of the West Side of London, or the Western Quarter.
Balthazar will offer a very polite bow, very kind of, as I said, courtly etiquette from like the last century, kind of, polite bow. Before he will take the offered seat.
Your Majesty, to discuss my future without me, I'm used to those of House Valerius engaging in such backroom discussions. To do it so brazenly, I'm quite offended. I had hoped that we would perhaps be able to discuss the future of my house in a more civil manner. Lady Eliza, if I intended to go behind your back on the affairs of your own organization, I doubt I'd be doing it in the middle of Elysium in front of all these people. I was merely informing your child of your current situation and what occurred upon your awakening. Yes, it appears we have hunters in our midst. And they have taken several kindred quite precious to me and my order. She looks at Balthazar. Whom is your sire? I do not know of you, but I sense your blood calls to mine as if we are the same.
Quite so, my lady, though I shall admit in this a most unfortunate state of affairs, in that I never knew my sire, per se. She was an evening's dalliance, and, well, after the act, I was left rather to fend for myself. But that was quite some time ago.
That is disappointing. Then I shall endeavour to locate them and punish them accordingly. I do not... It does not please me to hear of our blood succumbing to such weakness. We are above this.
In this, I assure you, my lady, you are more well versed in these matters than I.
But you are of my blood. When were you embraced?
He kind of contemplates because years are complicated. Approximately 100 and some years ago, during the First Great War.
I have heard of these wars. It is a shame I was not awake then to see it. Alas.
There was not truly much to see. It was a conflict waged by gentlemen and fought by brutes. It is the same as all wars.
From what the unconquered servants tell me of recent history, it does appear to be an increasingly reoccurring trend. It disappoints me. I remember the time when the nobility led from the front.
Quite so. I did have the distinction. He kind of looks at Stanforth. Okay, it will probably be an intelligence politics role or a wits politics role here, Chris. How facto non-verba are we to be about the previous administration, aka will Stanforth be offended if he brings it up?
Depends on how you bring it up.
Alright. He will say, during the last 2 conflicts that racked our kind within the city, I was pleased and proud to serve the Invictus with distinction from the front. After all, it is where we can test our mettle, if nothing else. Though I will admit this era of firearms has made the game far more trite.
She considers that statement for a moment. From what I have seen, the use of technology by mortal kind appears to have resulted in many of them dehumanizing each other, even more so than it was in nights past.
He nods.
What you refer to, I believe, is just one more step down that long, lonely road.
It does, however, yield its own advantages. He reaches into his pocket and he takes out his phone. Just, he probably has some kind of, relatively advanced smartphone because, he has all the money in the universe, so why wouldn't he? But and he places it down on the table. He unlocks it and he clicks a number of buttons on it. And what it does is basically, Chris, he's going to bring up, because it's Coldborn, he's going to bring up one of the stock exchanges that's still trading. So probably one of the Asian ones like Tokyo or Singapore. And he's going to just put it down in front of her before he'll say, due to the age we live in, an individual can reach out and touch this entire world, earn fortunes without ever having to leave the sanctity of, well, where it is he calls home. But I understand the perspective. We have lost the personal touch. More's a shame, really.
She picks up the phone. The concept of it still appearing to irritate her. She'll stare at it for a few moments at the screen before putting it down.
I am curious. His eyes kind of flick over the table at those who are gathered. I have been away from the city for some time due to needing to understand my place in the new administration. My ladyship, if you would not mind explaining something to me that you said during your speech, what's all this about revenants in the city, if you don't mind my asking?
The revenants supposedly have a place within this domain. Or that is what I have been told. They do. They are well managed, and any mistakes they make are insignificant at most. We have put in the time and effort to discipline them appropriately in the ways of the traditions.
Balthazar kind of stops. He stubs out his cigar that he had been smoking, just kind of stubs it out, and I assume there's an ashtray on the table. Just stubs it out before he'll say, "It seems very much, Your Highness, if you will, and I beg you do, forgive my saying so, that in this particular instance, you very much have a tiger by the tail, and I hope it is that it will not turn and bite one day."
I have ridden this tiger before. I can do so again, if needs must. It would not be the first time I have dealt with the revenants.
God damn it, tiger, but that's funny.
I would beseech you, Your Majesty, to be rid of them, but I believe we can all be agreed that there are more severe concerns at this point in time. There were others within my resting place that shared my resting place as honoured servants and members of my cohort that have since been absconded with.
Absconded with, you say?
The sheriff, who has been oddly silent this whole time, chips in. And I'll just get his face cam up for everybody as well. Yeah. Made off of at least one. I don't know about the rest. I believe they may have destroyed most of them. Made off with one for interrogation purposes. We weren't expecting anyone to be there at the time. And I don't know how they could have found it unless they were either keeping tabs on us from the start, or we have a rat. And a rat who knows a lot more than they fucking should.
Point of clarification, my Lord Sheriff. Who are they?
We're still trying to figure that out. From what they look like, they appear to be some special firearms unit, I'd reckon. Of a firearms command or counter-terrorism command. They certainly had the equipment for it. They were well armed, well equipped, and they had tools to deal with us. One of the kindred sent to retrieve the good lady here used their gifts of the blood to vanish from view. Their response was to use a very specific form of grenade to layer over the area in some form of snow. Kind of looked like it was grey. I think it might have been... could have been graphite, I'm not sure. But it revealed her. They're prepared for us. Worse, they're prepared for a very specific thing we could do. So we're not dealing with amateurs. It's the only real saving grace of this situation. They've exposed themselves.
If one may ask, other than your good self, who else was responsible for the extrication of Lady Eliza?
That is what I intend to find out. Or rather, that is who I intend to discuss the matter with now. Your Majesty, I'm sure it shall neither be a concern nor a surprise that I am retaking the leadership of my own house. I can count on your support. Well, I certainly have no intention of gainsaying it. That will suffice. I'd like to discuss this with the rest of the sheriffs later. I understand the need for multiple enforcers, but it is clear to me that it has resulted in a lack of focus. Something I believe must be rectified. But first, those that retrieved me, or assisted in doing so, I wish to speak of them. I shall be back in a few moments. She'll leave the table quite abruptly, although she will bow before the king. You don't need to make an empathy check, Balthazar. That Silverstein seems annoyed that she couldn't even fit a word in edgeways and was shut out of the conversation.
Coldmorn will kind of postulate, Lady Eliza, I may be able to help in the assertion and apprehension of these individuals. Would you mind if I accompany you to hear other reports as to what occurred that evening?
Myself as well, my lady. Silverstein says, first thing she's said ever since Eliza sat down at the table. Very well. You may follow.
He does the exact same thing, stands, gives a very polite bow, pushes in his chair, very, very polite. He also pushes in Eliza's chair. You know, he's very polite. But he'll follow.
Alley Cat, you're going to have such a nice bathroom break. Sadly, 'twas
Yes.
not to be.
I'm guessing she's gonna summon both of us.
She's going to walk towards both of you. If Alley Cat attempts to walk away,
I mean,
She's just
might.
gonna put her hand on Alley Cat's shoulder
God damn it.
if she tries. And is
Oh,
just sort
Ellie
of
was
going
standing in the middle
to
of the doorway.
elegantly, but quite she's going to elegantly just sort of move you. She's not really dragging you. She has just far too much physical strength for it even to really be considered a drag. She just sort of puts her hand on your shoulder and moves you back to your prior position. Along with right next to the rest of the group, Natalia and Figment and everybody else who has decided to gather around in a cozy little circle. Lady Alyssa, I hope you're not attempting to avoid me. I have matters to discuss with you.
Just wanted to check on my bike. I thought I heard someone pop the fire. That's not my name.
She looks at you, stares at you for a moment, and just says, I prefer to address people for their formal and more honest alias.
If it's an alias, is it honest though?
I guess if you say it's an alias, then it is.
Terms of address differ from person to person. It does not make it dishonest to have a different term of address to another.
My apologies. Balthazar, who's leaning on a cane, will extend his hand. Miss Alyssa, was it? A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Allie.
There is a giggle from Natalia. She seems to be enjoying this for some reason.
He has a black gloved hand. He's still holding it out towards you.
I mean, she's not gonna shake his hand unless he gets her name right.
My apologies, Miss Allie. Delighted to make your acquaintance.
Absolutely likewise. I love the Invictus so much. She'll, shake the hand. Huge fan.
I'm curious if there was any need for the cynicism when I've only attempted to be polite.
Oh, I wasn't just mentioning you as basically saying most of the Invictus in general. I'm sorry if you're one of the odd ones out. Hey,
Chris, let me know if
my cynicism.
Chris, let me know if my flaw has to trigger, because she kind of just smacked off my whole covenant.
she's really riding the line right now. It's not quite. She's being. The fun thing about wordplay is that you can be indirect. She's riding the line, but it's not a direct insult. It's not.
Okay.
It's pretty close to blatant, but it's not quite there.
That's because you're the arbiter of what is an insult and what isn't. So just let me know if the line gets crossed.
I will actually just get specifically.
We have a really specific curse about being insulted.
Yes. No. You see Eliza physically cringe at Alyssa's statements, and also at Natalia's giggling. My apologies, Natalia. Do you find this amusing?
what can we help you with this fine evening?
I had personally arrived here to thank you for your assistance at the time of my reawakening, and wish to apologize for any untoward behavior at that moment in time. I'm sure you could understand that I was rather flustered at being violently assaulted as my first experience for awakening into an entirely new time, age, and culture
Oh, I
by
totally
nameless
understand
strangers.
that. I understand that. There's no offense given. I'm honestly a little bit more curious as to what's exactly is going on with this. That's not the normal presence in a, well, cemetery. Well, you know.
My apologies. I should once again, now that we have all brushed past my name is Balthazar Coldmorn, scion of the Invictus, knight of the etc. It is a pleasure to meet and make all of your acquaintances. He'll extend, after he shakes Alicat's hand, he'll extend his hand to Natalia.
Also believe
take
Isabel, no, not Isabel, Figment is here as well.
Okay. Delighted to make your acquaintance, Miss Natalia. Thoroughly delighted.
Yeah.
And he's going to extend his hand to Figment.
She will shake your hand.
And
Oh,
your name.
Figment.
Your clan and lineage?
Would I actually question? Would I say Dragolescu or would I just say Ventru? I'm asking Chris.
You could do one or the other. Neither is dishonest. It's quite a popular trick for a bloodline to mask their origins by saying they come through this clan and simply omitting their bloodline. You could... you could say Dragolescu. You could also give your lineage in regards to your sire.
Mm-hmm. I'll actually point. She's there.
She is there, and she is relatively well respected in the domain. She's a baron. She's highly respected.
Mm-hmm.
Natalia will just state her lineage whenever the opportunity is there. She'll name her sire.
Ali will definitely not, unless they are asking her, which no one has done so far.
Yeah, when she asks, I'll point at Daphne. Like, she's my sire.
A baron of the court. You must be very proud.
I'll nod. So I didn't hear the story of you coming here. Either of you, really. Sounds exciting. I don't get out much.
I suppose
It's
that...
fun going out.
You can't just say she's leaving.
Oh, I wanted to say it's fun going out, but, you know, we started talking at the same time. So.
Sorry, I thought you said I'm going out, and I'm like... Oh,
That would be
okay.
hilarious, but no, I'll keep it in mind. Maybe in 5 minutes.
My story is not particularly interesting. I was looks at Alicat, about to confirm everything that Alicat thought. I served as one could say, a knight of the court for the former Prince Graves, and after the war, well, I thought it best to extricate myself from the scenario until I was led to understand that the new administration was offering amnesty.
Where'd you go in the meantime? Where'd you go in the meantime?
Edinburgh.
Oh, that's not too far.
Don't have shards over there.
I beg your pardon, madame?
Shards, they don't have it over there.
More's the
Typically
pity.
London. Can imagine.
The Shard is a beautiful building.
It's especially the basements. Have you ever seen them?
I can't say that I have. Why? Is there something of interest in the Shard's basement?
Not anymore.
Fascinating.
He's just gonna glance over to to the king.
Well, I had come to inform you that as a result of the roll, and it's very much emphasized that there was meant to be a word in between roll and V, such as important or significant, or the opposite of those. You played in my reawakening and return to this waking world. That I am to offer you a minor boon for your efforts. A boon
If that's
that...
necessary.
A boon that I hope in time you'll come to appreciate as a very, very significant favour indeed.
I really appreciate that, but I told the sheriff what I found out about things that I think are related. I know we're probably not going to do this here, but what is the plan with regards to these jokers that were at the where you were?
The king and his servants have been reacquainting me with the structures and institutions of the domain. The constabulary's methods follow a similar pattern to those they did a century and a half ago, though their means have evolved significantly. From what I have been led to believe, those that have pursued me and assaulted those of my affiliation and blood have hidden themselves within the local police force and are using them as a veil from which to engage in their illicit activities, not too dissimilar to those among our kind.
Something like that. I looked at the computers or the network in a local police station, and they'd had some eyes and ears out for people. A little. But it was all redacted, all classified, all blacked out by something relating to Scotland Yard, or what I'm assuming is Scotland Yard. So, someone is pulling some strings somehow.
That implies that it is military in some fashion.
Yeah, it is kind of in between. They use military for certain operations or things they need to do in civilian matters. They use military tactics. That's kind of the gist of it.
Then I shall speak with... You said you have informed the sheriff. Which one, or all of them?
The only one I had the chance to talk to, she will just indicate to the sheriff who's sitting at the table, right? Or is he down here with us?
He's sat down with the king still.
Yeah. You'll just nod up to him.
Ah. Yes, I suppose that makes sense. Then I shall speak of him regarding the matter. Once again, thank you for assisting in my retrieval.
Oh, you're welcome, but just as I said to the sheriff, there might be ways of approaching this problem without getting too close to them, but being a lot more incognito or, stealthy than other ways. And I might have a couple of ways to do that. To maybe, some of the same systems they've used to build it up, maybe we can use some of those systems against them. If what they're doing is not technically legal, we might get the legal system involved and shut them down. It's just a suggestion, though. It's just...
Not only that, but I guarantee you if these individuals are using military-grade weapons, well, the simple fact of the matter is the army always checks their supplies. They know categorically how many bullets they have, how many guns they have, how many grenades they have, which means they'll have to replace these items, meaning there's a flow of money somewhere here, and as I always say, follow the money.
There's you get a look for half a second or two from Natalia. It's just yeah, kind of like that. And then she just says, I'd like to get to the bottom of this, so just offer a standing. That's all.
Then I shall speak with you later.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
It was a pleasure to meet you all.
Likewise. It's much more pleasant.
It is the purpose of Elysium.
Yeah, I mean, this is better than getting shot at or grenaded. Yeah, but... Right.
She will bow and she'll go to take her leave unless anybody has anything else they'd like to add to her. Or say to her.
Let's find my info is quick enough. No.
I will lean over to Alicat. Yeah, that went well. Kind of.
Wait, what?
She just points. It went okay, right? Or did it?
Really care?
If it helps, I think you both did rather well.
It really doesn't, but...
That's the funny thing about ancients. They're ancient.
I guess.
Isabel, Leia, and Baudelaire. Oh, sorry. Leia, I said the same name twice.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I was going
Hi.
Hi.
Don't know why I said and. Baudelaire, Isabel, and Phineas. You all sat together.
I've kind
You're
of just been vibing.
just observing.
I've got acute senses too, if that helps with overhearing any of the further away conversations.
Oh yeah, you can make me a wits plus composure to get a gist of what's being said. If you get an exceptional success, you more or less hear it word for word.
Okay. I have really good rolls on that. So that's wits, composure, plus blood potency.
Yeah, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Things. I got 3 successes. If I do get an exceptional success on sensory rolls, though, because of acute senses, I get an obsession for it.
Yeah. Well, yep.
Got that.
Thank you.
But I mostly followed all the political talk there.
Hmm. My apologies, I've just been delivered cake.
What?
Oh,
Yes. But you're talking. Adele's been going on for a little bit now. She's been taking note of things. She's got that look in her eye, like she's just recording things in her head. Looking at people, gauging the crowd. So what did you think of the Lord Lady's return?
Was that directed at me, by the way, out of character?
The three of you in general.
I think it will prove to be interesting in the days to come.
I'm always happy to see more Invictus around.
He seems a competent individual.
Francesca simply says she is more than competent. She is the Red Knight. She is the greatest warrior this domain has seen in 500 years.
Was always reputed to have a talent for understatement.
And she is among the strictest and most honourable of our kind. The domain, I believe, is about to become a lot more much more well disciplined, I think.
Wonderful.
Leia looks vaguely pleased by that, but doesn't actually say anything on it.
All the more reason for me to just play in the shadows.
So what is Isabel doing?
Well, Isabel literally says just all the more reason for me to play in the shadows.
I'm sure you'll do nothing to warrant her ire, Isabel.
Oh no, I've learned my lesson in gaining those importance ire.
She raises an eyebrow.
I'll have to tell you about it one day.
Would you be interested in hearing it? Adele just says, "Are you sure you can't tell us right now?"
Oh, I'm absolutely certain. I do believe that is for friends only.
Not even for a little old boon from your friendly neighborhood harpy.
What kind of boon are we talking?
Oh, so you are willing to say.
I mean, a boon's a boon.
It's just a story. I would only offer you a trivial, unless there is something particularly interesting, secret buried beneath it perhaps. Then I might be willing to offer a little bit more.
No, of course not. It was very public what happened, so...
Oh, was this the time you... Oh, yes. I believe I remember this.
Yes.
This is when you attacked the Queen.
I did not attack her.
Well, it very much sounded like you did.
Well, it very much didn't.
Francesca is looking at you with eyes of deep suspicion.
I made a simple mistake and tried to hide behind somebody.
Ah! So worse. You used the Queen as your shield.
Yes, and it happened, and I got punished, and it is old news.
You know, if you're going to tell a story, you're going to have to drag it out a little bit more. Put a bit more into it.
Add a little bit of drama.
And then in blind vanity, I whisked myself behind the Queen, hoping that her inhuman fortitude would shield me from the worst of the frenzying kindred's claws.
Yes, and imagine my surprise when it didn't.
Are you saying the Queen isn't durable and lacks in human fortitude?
Yeah, no, I did walk into that one, didn't I?
You did. But I'm very, very nice. I'm not like Amber. I'd never do that to you. I wouldn't, as the kids say, do you dirty like that.
By the way, see who is it that's speaking to us right now again?
I
Be
mean,
reminded.
put up their face claim for you real quick, because I...
The Holy Adele.
It is Adele, a Nosferatu harpy.
Okay.
She's wearing a lovely dress, but her skin is completely smooth, and she is completely hairless.
Has she or Isabel stated their name at any time during this, or?
Oh, Isabel hasn't.
I mean, I think she did mention Isabel by name, though.
I believe so. But
I'm
you
trying
two, you are new to the domain. I've heard of your arrival. I'm very well connected, you see. She points at Isabel and Phineas.
Quite. Phineas Goodwin. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Pleasure. She'll shake your hand. You're around roughly the same strength. You might be a little bit stronger. Nosferatu are pretty strong.
Must apologize. Full introductions would probably be good. Clan Venture of the Invictus.
You certainly have the presence of one.
We get told that quite often. Not sure where people see it. He'll say that as he leans back in his chair, which just starts to make groaning noises from beneath him.
And you? She looks at Baudelaire.
I am Dr. Leah Baudelaire of the Oro Dracul. It is nice to meet you. I hold out a hand for him to shake if he wants that.
And she will shake it as she says, and judging by your sullen and withdrawn expression, I'm going to guess Maquette.
Yes. I appreciate people who can read that from not having to ask, rather. It's something that I like doing myself.
I suppose that is a good thing. Better you appreciate it than be offended. But yes, what did... I, for one, am of mixed opinions on tonight's affairs.
What did he say exactly? I couldn't...
Oh, she says she's of mixed opinions on tonight's affairs. I respect Lady Eliza, of course, as no other Invictus could, but it has only been a few weeks. We're rushing back into leadership. Doesn't seem to suit an elder.
It seemed others were of a mixed opinion. I heard lots of different ideas about her.
Oh, they're just scared she'll show up on their doorstep one night. The mythical Red Knight here to reap the souls of the Carthians.
Hear, hear! From somewhere in the room.
Well, she does have a rather nice knife. Or is it a sword? Was it a sword?
It was. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah. It was she did have a really nice sword.
I don't pretend to know what on earth it was, but certainly not an ordinary sword. Alicat's already seen a sword in action, but Isabel, being a crone and having sorceress abilities, could make her intelligence plus occult roll.
Excellent.
Or that only her, because she's okay.
Because she
One
has
doesn't
the
necessarily
mages.
need to. Sorry, go ahead.
That's true. This is fairly specific, and the group in Elysium have only seen a very brief look at the weapon, so it's kind of difficult. If, like, one of you had time to examine it thoroughly, you'd probably be able to make an extended check to figure out what it does or what it is.
Ooh, Chris, because
I got 2 successes.
I was going to say, because she's a member of my clan and a member of my bloodline, can I roll intelligence academics to know the history of her, which might give me an intimation as to if the sword is old and storied?
Yeah.
Sure.
You can actually, that is actually a very good use of academics. Head pats for good use of academics.
I'm going to spend a willpower to make it a rote action.
Hooray. Isabel, you gain 2 successes. I guess we'll wait for... Okay. Boss is... Okay, yeah, alright. Yeah, keep flexing with your A successes.
I'm sorry, friends.
Oh, rote actions. I remember playing Mage with Destiny, and it's such a drug.
Oh yeah. Every rote spell is god tier. We'll start with Isabel. Isabel, you don't affect different information because you're rolling different skills. So Isabel, the blade is clearly enchanted. You can tell the words on the hilt seem to designate her as the owner. And you would guess they work as a ward to prevent others from utilizing it or holding it.
Interesting.
You would be aware that likely a ward of that particular kind would probably have required Eliza to have donated part of her own vitae to the ritual. In a way, it's almost like basically a mystical fingerprint.
Interesting.
Although, of course, religiously, quite different.
Yeah.
A sacrifice for a request. Figment, that is definitely not necromancy.
Oh, disappointing.
It is a form of sorcery.
Figment's just like, I came here for necromancy and necromancy adjacent rigamagelia.
Yeah. Ripperino, no ghosties.
None of these things are necromancy.
Yep, no necromancy here. No bony boys. Nothing.
Probably lame. Go back to my graveyard.
Apart from, of course, your sire. But, the blade doesn't appear to make use of necromancy. You believe, judging by the style, it is likely Kruak sorcery, not Theban sorcery. So you could probably learn more from an acolyte. Mr. 8 successes.
Aye.
Let me tell you a story in short in Cliff Notes.
Okie dokie.
So, the history of Lady Eliza initially starts out rather innocuous, just a neonate among the Invictus. She's always been known as an Invictus. She's never been anything other than an Invictus. She's always been an Invictus, and always an extraordinary loyalist of the highest order. I'm going to ignore that.
Sorry.
She has always been a traditionalist. She's always also held herself generally largely above house politics, which may seem a bit weird given that she is the lord of a house. But you understand that in her first few decades as a neonate, during the 1500s, Sanctified attempted to launch a coup against the ruling powers of the time that you understand to be the Invictus, and attempted to oust the leadership of the Invictus based on the motivation that the Circle itself was, or rather the progenitor cults to the Circle, were effectively, well, they were literally a giant heretical blot upon the state of the domain.
So much akin to how we are now.
Yes.
You could actually draw a direct parallel, as a matter of fact.
Oh, definitely, in fact. It is incredible, looking back at the history of those events, how little has changed. The story goes that the Invictus had at this point, due to a string of failed princes and descendants from House Valerius, had grown weak through infighting. Many attempting to suborn one another for power and privilege and wealth, and everything that a ambitious Invictus desires. This manipulation led to sabotage, which led to what was effectively a low-key war, the Sanctified really just intervening when the Invictus were at their weakest in an attempt to remove them completely from the situation. Though they didn't attempt to destroy the Invictus themselves, what they wanted to do was remove the Invictus from power so they could remove the Circle from the domain. And they would have succeeded. Such was the utterly dilapidated and frankly shameful state of the Invictus at the time, were it not for the very bold and the very bold actions of Lady Eliza, and the outright martyrdom of many members of her coterie, or at least so it is stated. as she was the only member of her coterie that survived the conflict. While the rest of the Invictus largely twiddled their thumbs, it was she who recognized the threat and acted against it. Feigning loyalty to the Sanctified in order to learn of their plans and sabotage them. Once she had crippled them, she was said to have confronted the Archbishop of the time directly and slain them in single combat. A significant feat for a neonate. She was rewarded by the Invictus with her own house, and she was rewarded by the Circle with the blade that she now carries. A monument, a eternal monument to her actions. And a sign of her allegiance to the Crone. Now, you understand that the yes, you can roll that. Now you understand that the history is a little bit more complicated. She did slay the Archbishop in single combat, but it was her coterie mates that died slowing them down. Several of them died before they even reached the Archbishop. And unfortunately, many of their names are poorly remembered, as history tends to remember the living in Kindred Society, and not the dead.
Fascinating.
You're also aware that she was very well equipped for her fight against the Archbishop. The Circle having outfitted her with various enchanted trinkets and armaments to assist her in her fight against the Sanctified. That also conveniently provided the Crone of a layer of separation from the actual conflict. The other piece of information you attain is you understand, you remember why she is considered to be above house politics. It's because upon her coronation as the Lord of a House, she also took the oath of the True Knight, segregating her from the political affairs of the Invictus, and standing as a guardian of the sect in its entirety.
Fascinating.
You are aware she still holds this oath to the night.
Yeah, that's a lot of info I don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, you don't attain any information battle there. Sorry. I will actually. That's not true. I will make you a blue book for it later, but it won't be as much information as if you had gotten a success.
Okay, I'd also like to the person that that I was just speaking to. Who are they again? I'm so forgetful. Damn.
They are Adele. There are
Adele,
two. There are two other NPC kindred at the table. One is Adele Nosferatu. The other is a woman called Francesca, who appears to be well associated with Isabel.
I would like to. Could I use Wid's empathy to determine how she feels about Eliza, since we mentioned and talked a bit about that with my empathy specialty?
Adele?
Emotion. Yeah.
Okay. You can do that if you like.
Alright. I get that. Those big numbies.
You'll lose her manipulation. You'll take her manipulation as a dice penalty, which is free.
Okay, so I still have 4, 3, 8, so 5, and it's got 9 again. Because it's one of my asset skills.
God bless
It
professional
didn't-
cooking and all it stands for.
It didn't roll it properly, so I probably put it in wrong, so I'll just manually roll.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. This is how you
So I got
normally do
two.
it, I think. There you go.
Ah, okay. I always mess up with Discord.
Yeah.
Discord doesn't like me anyways. I've insulted it on too many occasions.
Yeah. Discord loves insulting us, though. Mainly you. It seems to love me. Can't imagine why. It's not like I have tons of dice or anything.
Dice rollers in general like me. It's just Discord doesn't like me as much as others.
Okay. So you get that, she is... She's not quite as... She's not quite as supportive as she seems to be letting on. You can sense that she seems a little bit on edge when discussing Lady Eliza.
Okay, I kind of felt like she was giving out a little bit of a front, but it's good to get that confirmed. Okay, thank you. That's all I need.
However, Phineas, Francesca will turn to you. If you don't mind me saying, I've heard of your intentions to start some sort of club. Just says that directly to Phineas.
Quite so. A place where members of our society can perhaps work off some aggression in a semi-safe environment.
A dueling arena. I do believe that would be a good idea. I find that while I am not personally acquainted with the art, courtoisie is something of a lost form among our kind. I rarely see it practiced in this domain in these nights. I'm hoping Lady Eliza can reacquaint the domain with it. Re-establish the respect it is owed.
Hopefully so. Perhaps a demonstration can be made once I get things finished setting up. And others can come and watch and perhaps take bets.
Perhaps... Perhaps a kindred who has made a few trespasses can come to understand quite viscerally the reputation that Lady Eliza holds. Once you've established your... What would you have me call it? I don't believe club would be an apt term.
Fight pit would be apt until I find a more suiting name, I suppose.
Oh, come now, we are not Carthians.
Bloodsport.
Honor sport.
Bloodsport.
Adele will just say, I for one am all in favour of fight pits and blood sports. But perhaps most of all I am quite in favour of taking bets.
Something for everyone.
Amber would have loved this conversation. It's a shame she's not here. I should catch up with her after this.
Yes, that's quite strange. She's normally here.
She never misses an Elysium. And she knew this was going to be a big event. I have to wonder what's keeping her.
Well, afraid I'm unfamiliar with this, Anna.
Amber Bramo, you know her, the harpy, surely.
Oh, yes. My apologies,
Excellent.
I must have misheard you.
Does Phineas know of Amber the harpy?
Yeah, she was mentioned to him by Blair.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have absolutely had you roll manipulation subterfuge against the harpy.
She's the sanctified harpy, isn't she?
Yes.
Mhm.
Got an Invictus harpy and a sanctified harpy. Yes, I'll have to check in with her. I hope it's nothing in particular. You know, the cacophony has been quite busy lately. A large number of kindred have been, trickling out of the domain.
Excuse me, do I hear that? Do I hear this discussion?
Mm-hmm. You can if you wanna.
Yeah, Natalia is moving somewhat closer, but she's not saying anything at this point, but she's just seeming more and more interested in this conversation.
Yeah, Balthazar's going to sidle on over as well, since we were standing together. He bows politely again, and he removes his pack of cigars. He's going to offer cigars around if anyone wants one.
Natalia will take one, definitely.
He also hands you his little zap lighter. Zap.
Leia declines.
Take one.
He will hand you it, and he kind of looks at Figment like, "You smoke cigars?"
I'll try anything once.
For the record, these are like totally hand-rolled Cubans. He is that extra mofo, you know?
Oh, I've heard of you, the recluse witch goth girl thing. You live in a graveyard.
Yeah.
Even those who live amongst even those who live among the dead can appreciate a fine Cuban cigar.
Phineas is still smoking his from earlier because one doesn't just like suck down a cigar, as his player found out the one time he tried to smoke a cigar.
Oh no, that'll fucking kill you. Like legitimately, don't.
Yeah, no, I sucked it down in like 5 minutes, and that was a mistake.
No.
But he'll light the cigars before he'll place the lighter back in his breast pocket. He puffs on his own.
Tastes fancy.
Beg your pardon?
I said it tastes fancy.
My apologies. What was the topic of conversation before we interrupted so rudely?
I believe it was something with people disappearing. First of all, I'm sorry, I hate to barge in, but you said someone who never misses Elysium is missing Elysium. And then you said that people have been, trickling out?
Some kindred have been leaving the domain for greener pastures. I, for one, take offense.
Well, if you take offense, it's probably a good thing they left then, right?
Well, I'd rather them be made to appreciate the domain as opposed to running away because they couldn't hack it.
With all due respect. Sorry, continue.
I was just say. I mean, maybe, but if they leave, they leave.
Plenty of people who can't see the long game.
Consider, though, London is not necessarily the city that she once was. It's overpopulated with our kind, even if you consider its megacity status. There isn't the hunting that there used to be. I'm led to understand all kinds of things, revenants being welcomed to the court, and still an independent who claims almost an entire borough to himself. There are...
With respect, I disagree. If the domain was once overpopulated, then we all killed each other and that problem resolved itself. As for Jonathan, well, he's been there for God knows how long at this point. He's been around long enough to see two princedoms come and go at least.
Which one is talking now?
Oh, Adele.
Which one is Adele?
Nosferatu Harpy.
She's the Invictus Harpy, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
He will nod and he'll say, I can understand the point of view, my lady. However, as I've said, individuals have the right to go and come as they choose. If they are welcome in other domains, then let them be welcome there. If they are welcome here, then they are welcome here. That is the very nature of change.
The fact that I agree with an Invictus, but here we are.
Madam, with all of the most due respect, I do not judge you based upon the nascent status of your own covenant, and I would ask you politely that you not judge me on behalf of mine. It is most uncouth.
Didn't you flip from the movement to the circle anyway? You're not exactly in a position to complain, Alicat.
Said it, Flip. I have my reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the circle now? That's new.
There for quite some time now, but yeah.
I mean, I get most of my
the
rumors
real,
from...
like OG, well, not OG, but you know, the real kind of member of the movement here. I'm not entirely sure, but you know.
But my point still stands, and once again I say this with all most due respect. Allow me to be judged by my actions, not based upon which covenant it is that
I'm pretty sure that you are getting judged by your actions right now, but you know.
I have to agree.
Do any of you know who this man is?
Don't
I think that's the point.
have Natalia met this guy?
No.
Natalia just say, no, but I haven't said anything yet. I've just met him. The cigar is good, but...
So how can you judge a man when you do not know of their history? Now I know of their history. But how can any of you claim to judge?
Have I judged him yet? I'm saying he is being judged. But not by me, by other people.
Oh.
It does not matter who you
I have to
are
admit
or
that
where
is
you come
relatively
from.
smart.
You're always going to be judged, no matter what.
Everyone is always judging with every single thing they see. Even if they don't think it's judgment.
I am now taking donations to expedite the construction of my blood sport so that stupid-ass conversations such as this one can be settled in a safe and violent manner.
Please.
I definitely agree with you there. I will donate. Let me see how much I have.
What kind of violence?
But the simple fact of the matter, he once again he puffs his cigar. My lady Adele. It was Adele, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. My lady Adele is indeed correct. Once again takes another deep drag of the cigarette. And I am pleased to say that my exploits have not been forgotten, so I thank you. I used to have quite a name in this city, however it would appear as though that's, well, no longer the case. Names have to be rebuilt and maintained after all, and I respect that.
It has been quite a while.
Well, didn't he do... I mean, he said that he left and then he came back, which is what you're saying kind of about other people doing, so...
Different circumstances. That was then. This is now.
We were not... He turns to look at Figment. He doesn't appear to be angry or, like, judgmental. As a matter of fact, he sits down. He appears to be rather relaxed before he'll say, I fought for the side I believed in during the war. I fought for my house. I fought for house... It was Blacktomb was the house, wasn't it, Chris? I fought for House Blacktomb during the war. This is what I believe to be correct. They were my liegemen.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying. I think, you know, people that leave the city leave for their own reasons. You thought you were doing the right thing, and because of it, eventually, you left the city. Because that's what you thought was the right thing for you to do at that time. I'm not faulting you for it.
No, not at all. But as I've said, there was a question of when House Valerius came once again to, I would say, having looked at all matters, the rightful place of its rulership, considering it had ruled for so long. The Invictus are the unconquered, after all. We still rule the city, even if houses have changed. But there was a question to my safety, and so I left until it was that amnesty could be arranged. And now here I sit, returned home again. But there was a time. It is unfortunate when it is that potential friends must be enemies. But that's politics.
When potential, well, when past enemies to be friends, certain healthy skepticism. Not really that strange. Do you not agree?
There's a difference between skepticism and cynicism.
I mean,
In
my
my
lady,
case, they often walk hand in hand.
Miss Alley, that was the name you'd like to be called. I'm willing to be entirely frank with you. Because I believe that to be the correct methodology. I have nothing personally against you. I have nothing personally against your covenant. I have nothing personally against your ideals or idealisms. You've switched your covenant to one that is more suitable to your needs. I think that's commendable. However, during the war, I killed many Carthians. It was simply the way of things. But I hold no grudge. As I say, that's politics.
Still, you can't immediately expect to go back to a city and then be applauded in. I have nothing against you personally. We didn't fight. Didn't see you there. I didn't know what you were doing, so I can't judge you for that. I will always judge the Invictus for what they've done there. Oh, be completely fair. I understand that there were mistakes on both sides, and that there are honorable people. As a matter of fact, I pulled one of your honorable people of your covenant because they tried to kill him for being a good person. Happens. I do not judge you, because I've not seen your actions during the war. I will judge your covenant, based on what I've seen there. Many have changed after that.
You do indeed speak with the vim and fervor of an ideologue. I'm amazed that you left the Carthian movement.
The reasons are my own.
As you say.
It.
But if you're he kind of casually glances around. My apologies, Miss Natalia. I will get better with names. You were concerned about somebody missing.
Well, with all of this talk of hunters and shit, yeah, the prospect of people getting picked up, and like, how do we know that it is people leaving and not people getting abducted? That's mainly my problem. Well, concern.
I can give you a short answer to that question. His eyes flick over to the Nosferatu Happy. My lady Happy, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Why, I love questions.
Does that lamentable sack of bones bagman still exist?
I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
think
he's
we're
around.
ever going to get rid of him.
Which he kind of, Balthazar stands up. He kind of looks left. He looks right. Is his bagman skulking in one of the non-occupied corners of this room?
If he's skulking in a corner, it's by definition occupied.
All the corners are occupied.
He's sort of
Gonna
just
start a
up on
movement
one
on
of the
that.
balcony. Yeah, there's a balcony that oversees the hall. He's up on that, and he's just sort of standing there.
He kind of looks up. He raises his voice not to shout, but to be heard, if that makes sense. He says, Master Bagman, it's been far too long.
He looks down. I'm just going to give everybody's Bagman's face claim. Because there are some people here who have not met him. Tragically.
Can I point out, this is legitimately my favorite. Now that Graves is gone, this is my favorite NPC in the game.
Look at him.
You shout out to him and he just goes, "Ah, for Christ's sakes, they let you back in?"
I have a proposition of business to discuss with you if you wouldn't mind stepping down.
Sure, why not?
I will put out, while he does this, he just very calmly takes Figment's wrist, alters how she's holding the cigar, and then just lets her away with it, because knowing Figment, she was holding it wrong.
Yeah. Nothing in the cottage can remind you about smoking
probably knows how to
cigarettes.
smoke a cigar.
A bagman will just leap down off the balcony. And then we'll just walk towards you after that impressive little display.
I see that after all this time, you're still alive.
Yeah, I'm a hard man to be rid of. I'm like a cockroach, you know. You can do all sorts of terrible things to me, but I'll just keep getting back up. And crawl out of your drainage pipe when you think you're done. That's probably that's really a horrible fucking analogy for me, but it's kind of accurate.
Well, not the best. Not the best.
I mean, hey, there's nothing more resilient than a cockroach.
Okay.
And hey, let's be honest, nobody's saying it. But it's what half the domain thinks of me anyway, so I might as well own it.
Well, you kind of just like drugs.
They're just jealous they don't have what I have. Anyway. Master Coldmorn, what can I do you for?
Apparently, Miss Natalia here is somewhat concerned over the concept of individuals being, you will forgive my paraphrasing, disappearing.
Well, you know, I don't think he's involved if that's what you're getting at. I mean, he does that shit, yeah, but, you know.
No, you're quite misunderstanding. My point is more, if you want something found in the city, he's pretty much a one-stop shop.
You ain't wrong.
Don't think I totally agree, but I get the gist of it, yeah.
You know what? As a homecoming gift, I'll give you this one for free. Well, if he's not wrong, there's been kindred that have been leaving the domain recently. They're the ones that have been catching on. Some of them, I'm sure it's been starting to make the rounds. Some kindred are, getting followed. Some ghouls are going missing or getting detained by the fuzz.
Yeah.
I've noted a few unannounced departures from the domain. None of them kindred you'd miss. But it makes me wonder if they got kicked out, or if Somebody nabbed them up. I've been looking into it. Getting a little bit worried. Because it's not just, how to put it? You got... There are 3 types of kindred in the domain. Politically. You got those that everybody hates but can't get rid of. You got those that are accepted but not necessarily respected, which is basically most of us at this table, apart from maybe the Harpy. And then you got those who are accepted and respected. Those in your circle, Archons, Sheriffs, Barons, etc., etc. Everybody with a fancy title to their name. Most of the kindred leaving have been in the former category. So they're always going to be moving on. Half of them tend to be nomadic anyway. A lot of nomadic kindred don't tend to be all that popular, particularly when they come to big domains, because, well, they're sort of viewed as parasites, which is kind of funny and ironic when you think about it, but I ain't gonna touch that topic of a 10-foot pole. But nobody
are, though.
No.
Right now.
My point is, nobody would really miss them or care or even notice, because, you know, they're in and they're out. It's pretty constant. It's pretty common. Now I'm thinking I should be paying more attention. I'm thinking we should be paying more attention. Because someone, somewhere, is making moves against us, and I don't like it. You've been talking a little bit about... a certain entity you found. He says this to Natalia. That up until this point hasn't really been discussed publicly, and for the sake of not causing a domain-wide panic/exodus, I prefer that you don't. He just looks at the Harpy and points and just says, don't. And the Harpy pouts.
And
we're not the only game in town. I wouldn't jump to conclusions.
Right. She just looks at Bagman for a minute.
Like, have you heard about all the revenants going... Psh?
No.
I know, because I got an ear to the ground.
I know that as well.
Revenants are disappearing in quite large numbers, actually. Now, of course, that's hardly newsworthy, because who cares? Most people would say, fucking good. But that does give me cause for concern.
Well, they're not particularly long-lived, right?
Nah, the way they live... You're lucky if you get a few decades on you at best. A few years, hell. You're lucky you make it if you make it past the first few months as a revenant, really. I know there is one old boy in town still. Hickory. He's managed to hold it together for a decade. Quite impressed, really. I'm surprised nobody's snapped him up as a prospect.
Ultimately, is it really their fault that they only live that long? Say not. Of them, most of them don't even have choice. They just...
Well, of course they don't have a choice. They wake up, they eat somebody, and you have to go back underground, because they ate somebody.
how can we as a society blame them for what they are? Should be blaming the people that did that to them.
Well, to be fair, I don't, but it doesn't really change the fact that it makes a lot of them a walking
Bagman.
masquerade issue, right?
Bagman, explain to me, how is it that we are suddenly buddy now?
I don't know, politics makes strange bedfellows. Are we buddy? Are we enemies? Am I supposed to hate you?
I think if anyone is hating anyone in this relationship, I should be hating you quite a bit.
Oh, why? What did I do?
She just looks at you, or she looks at him, just squints. Oh, I don't know, I must have forgotten.
Bagman is, I will assure you, a character of most upstanding caliber.
I am. It be true. That's a perk of being the Invictus. You get to say that, and it's largely accurate. Can't go back. You snort like an asshole, but it's true because if you're Invictus, you can trust that we'll keep our word. We literally can't go back on it, because if we do, we get fucked. It's the whole system. Have to honour our bargains. Now we might give you a shit bargain, but hey, I mean, that's just the art of the deal. He gives a smile underneath his balaclava. You can imagine it's quite toothy and smarmy. That's my point. If I say I'm going to do something, odds are I'll do it. Because going back on it, well, that's a great way for me to lose literally all of my fucking trust with the entire city. And the rest of my sect, which is, to be honest, in the eyes of a lot of Invictus, more important than the rest of the city. I get that it's kind of considered out of date, but really it's just good business. That's why, the Invictus has lasted as long as it has. Because at the end of the day, we do good business. And we're very good at doing good business.
Is still staring daggers at him.
Oh yeah, one second. Okay, well, that is... Okay. Alright, well... So why is Natalia staring daggers at him? This is an OC question.
The last time the two of them were involved, he was essentially... I know he was just doing his job, but he was helping Grimaldi frame Natalia for murder. It's a long time ago, sure, but she hasn't forgotten, and she still kind of hates his guts for that.
So...
Am I totally wrong, or this is the case, right?
No, you can... Whatever Natalia's motivation is really all I'm asking for. So yeah, if you want to find something out, I'm a good guy to go to. I can find almost anything. Kinda depends. That's the big thing. If you need something found, it ain't just info, it's people, places, stuff. We all have stuff that we like. Maybe I can find it for you. I'm pretty good at it. Doesn't mean I can find you everything, because I don't make promises I can't keep. But the odds are very good that I can. As long as it's not something like fucking the sword in the stone or some shit. Then
That's over there, he'll say, pointing in the vague direction of Lady Eliza.
Yeah. If you to talk to somebody else about that, I don't know. There's a crony called Hermione. She's great.
You find proof as well.
Proof? Depends on what you're asking me to find, you know. I mean, society's kind of one giant game of telephone, right? A lot of it's not verifiable. You know, there's only so much verification you can put to stuff like rumor and hearsay. But, again, likely that I can, in most cases.
I think maybe I have an interesting case for you at some point.
Oh, sick. Don't you run like a PI firm or something, no? Shouldn't that be like your whole job?
Yes. I wasn't saying you were going to act alone.
Oh, am I a part of your firm now?
No.
Oh. That's a shame. Oh, no. Well, now I'm not sure I want to do it. If I don't get to hang out with Benji, it's just not going to be worth it, I think.
It's not my problem. I don't care.
What, is
you don't
this...
want to do it, you don't do it.
Is
I had
this...
I had a border collie named Benji when I was young.
Yeah, is this because Benji doesn't like me? Is this... Like, I'm feeling pretty discriminated right now.
Oh, it's because of the color of your hair.
Oh, well, you've just fucked your entire job market then.
Well, that's rude.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You know, they wouldn't hire you, Figment. Colour your hair's all fucked.
Aw, I
too-
like my hair.
Hers is pretty fine.
What the
Color
fuck?
segments there.
Okay, well now you are discriminating against me. I'm not having any of this.
Query, why does this individual hate you, Bagman?
I don't know. It's fucking what, political tribalism.
I think Allie hates most people. No offense.
Like, no, Alley Cat doesn't hate me. Alley Cat
someone
thinks
else
I'm
hates me?
lovely. We will have like cool fucking nicknames and shit. We're like nickname pals. That's how it works.
Sure.
We're like,
Oh, Natalia doesn't like you.
yeah, we're all synced up. We're like looped in. We're on the same page. To be fair, I don't think I've ever given you a reason to hate me, right, Alley Cat?
I mean, I think this is the longest conversation we've ever had together.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really think. I mean, I think it's everybody else that hates me.
Hate you? I just met you now.
That's
But I don't
true.
hate you.
I think we're best friends already.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wanna come hang out in my graveyard?
Yeah, sure. I've been in worse places.
Play poker on Thursdays.
Absolutely not as surprised with that.
That'd be pretty fucking baller, actually. Like, fucking... What, ghost poker? I don't know how this shit works with you.
That's if he shows
Honestly,
up.
I have to agree with the both of you. That actually sounds pretty cool. Honestly.
You guys wanna come poker night?
I
Both
mean,
of them might actually do that, yeah.
Graveyards
trying
do
to
have aesthetic.
If you try to figure out if those remnants are dead, they might be hanging out around the library or around the graveyard.
I mean, I don't really know how ghosts work. Do we even have ghosts?
Sometimes.
I'm curious, Bagman. Obviously, I left just after the end of the last conflict. Why are there revenants, and why are they accepted in the city?
That was a whole compromise deal. Basically, they helped get rid of some of the big bad things I shall not name because mass panic and shit.
Somebody was making them.
Also, well, it's... So, somebody was making them.
But he still is, actually.
Oh, what?
What?
I'm working on it.
Oh, is that
That's
the
the
job?
one-
Because I am super fucking down to figure out who's doing that.
It's part of the
Yes,
job, yes.
Okay, cool. I'll bring a steak. But long story
Like-
short,
Oh, sorry, continue.
somebody was making them, They were getting weaponized against the establishment until the person who was making them decided, nah, fuck that, we want to weaponize them against everything. And as it turns out, a lot of revenants weren't actually that stupid and were like, that sounds like a terrible idea, we're all going to die. So they fell in with the current king, who basically said, if you help me with my issues and help me take the throne, I'll give you a place in the city. And they were like, that sounds like a great idea. Then a lot of them died helping him do that, and the ones that survived now get not necessarily a place at the table, but we're not hunting them for like blood sport or shit anymore, or at least not officially. There are some guys out there who are proper pricks about it and still try and, you know, game the system, but it, by and large, they're sort of left to their own devices until they end up breaking the masquerade, at which point well, it gets basically, they kind of, we don't really even have to interfere. The system that's set up is such that Margot and Hickory deal with it, and because they're like, well, the whole survival of the Revenants burrow, their I guess movement, I'm not really sure that's the appropriate word, don't really stand for much other than not dying, but the Revenant movement, air quotes, hinges on, you know, them not making those sort of fuck-ups, even though they're very likely to make them because they sort of wake up ravenously starving every night. So they deal with it. They usually kill them because, you know, what other options do you really have at that point? You know, the many or the few, or the many or the none. So, you know, it's basically a compromise situation. It's not really a bad setup, to be honest. I mean, given there's only one borough in the city and it's working out pretty well. I mean, it's structured pretty efficiently, and I've met Hickory before. He's an alright guy. Suspicious and paranoid as fuck, but I mean, he should be. He's been a Revenant for a decade. So, yeah, that's the story. That's the story of how the Revenants came to be not dead, and definitely not respected, but not actively disrespected, I guess.
So wait, this Hickory, who was their leader, he wasn't uplifted?
No, I don't really know why. Margot was. She's the king's child now. Hickory, this is very much hearsay and rumour, but I believe it. Word on the street is that he refused when he was offered.
Ugh.
Fascinating.
Which is
Well, that sounds terrible.
yeah, it was a very bold decision, and I guess I can respect it, but I can also acknowledge that it's very stupid. Because who the fuck would want to live like that? And given the choice.
I guess you're trying to make some kind of point, but the point you're making is like, no.
Yeah, I mean,
Perhaps he was just very attached to the other Revenants.
Considering the statement that was made this evening by Lady Eliza, I sensed that matter was going to become very interesting very quickly.
Ultimately, it's dangerous.
You're right. We are one frenzy away from the masquerade. Coincidentally, who was this Mr. Goodman fellow?
Old Captain Bringdown. Oh well.
I beg your pardon?
What about him?
Never mind. Nickname for him.
Yeah. But
What about him?
well, for a start, he's dead.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Not particularly, but how did he die?
From what I'm led to understand, having had a conversation with His Highness on the topic, he was essentially given a choice after some kind of very vulgar breach of the masquerade. that
Again.
One.
that either he could die or his sire would be put to death, and he opted to save his sire. So I will say that in death he did show some semblance of dignity. My point is more, all we would need is a revenant-fueled Mr. Goodman, or incident thereof of the same magnitude. The our requiems are already paper thin. And if hunters are in the city, all the worse.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been hunters, right? You know, London's a big place, there's always going to be a cell or two, but you need to make sure they don't organise. That's the real problem.
Yes, but the problem is the last thing we want is a revenant or an idiot neonate who decides to, well...
Oh yeah, I lived through that whole shit show. That was, that's been, dealing with the fallout of that has been, he actually he has his hand over his sort of, his forehead.
Well, from my
It's been a
understanding,
fucking nightmare.
revenants are a lot less of a problem now than they used to be because there's a lot less of them.
Oh yeah, well that's kind of a problem, right? Like revenants, a single revenant is a problem, but easily dealt with. A lot of revenants, it's it's how to put it. It's like a ticking time bomb. Because
The emus in Australia.
Yes.
You know about the emu war? Emu war? The Great Emu War. There was all these emus, so the Australians tried to kill them off, but they couldn't do it because they're scrappy.
yeah, but in this
Revenants
case,
kinda
not
like
like. But the problem with that analogy is that in most domains they do kill off all the revenants.
But here they couldn't.
It's more like they decided not to because it was politically advantageous. But you know, it's kind of unusual to see revenants even playing the political game. But hey, I got them this far.
Well, it's also unusual to have this many revenants in such a small area. But here we are.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
But like, can we loop back around to the fact that the guy that's making them is still doing it? Because I thought we killed that guy.
No. The guy who's originally doing it is dead and gone.
Okay, but who's still doing it? Someone's still doing it.
Oh, we're trying to find that out now, apparently.
So
I had heard of like killings. I didn't know the intent was to do that. I just thought it was like a fucking serial killer or like a sloppy kindred. I mean, to be blunt, a lot of London's a big place with a lot of kindred in it. Most of them are not all that fucking tactful or smart.
It's not trying to be relatively powerful to make a revenant, though.
You can, but you keep it. Most elders, you don't become an elder by being that amateurish.
Right. That's why it's weird that it's still happening.
Yeah,
especially if it's happening by accident.
If revenants are being created, and they're being created at any degree of pace, I guess is a way to put it. If they're being created with a degree of frequency. Because as you say, you have to have the thicker your blood, the more likely you are to make one. At least that's the rumoured rule of thumb.
I was led to understand that the Ordo would more than likely be the experts on how it is that they were birthed.
Yeah, that's true. You'd know more about this than I would. So I'll take you at your word. So that would imply that kindred
it's
doing
not my
it.
particular... It's not my particular area of expertise, but, I talk to people.
Yeah, you talk to people. We have books on this, right?
A few rolls on that, especially since I'm Mystery of the Voivode and I'm all about Vitae and its properties.
Mr. the Voivode, you definitely know that what Figment is saying is broadly true. It's a bit more complicated than that, but in layman's terms, it's accurate. The more powerful kindred
what
is.
I'm usually going to say.
Oh, pardon?
I'll usually be describing it in layman's terms, so.
Yeah.
You gotta talk slow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I take offense to that.
I don't wanna like be rude and show off in front of these people or anything.
Yeah, I'm an intelligent, I'm a smart lad.
I mean, given that Goodman was an Ordo, I think.
Oh, he was dumb as a box of rocks.
Yeah, so really don't say that you're like also smart because you're Ordo.
You can
I'm
be,
not.
well, here's the thing. You can be
You
very
weren't.
intelligent and exceptionally unwise.
Well, here's the thing, too.
Right.
We specialize. Like, we know a lot about the things that we specialize in.
Is this in character, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, this is 100% character.
Yeah,
Like, we know a lot. Like, I know a whole lot about graveyards and spirits and dead people and how they get to that point. I can talk to you about it a whole lot.
Wow, that's
but I'm not
fucked up.
going to right now. I know, right? That's why I'm not going to talk to you a whole lot.
Yeah,
I need you
yeah,
to know something that's
yeah.
important. And if you need to know something important about it, I'm going to talk slowly so
Yeah.
I'm sure that everybody understands.
Right,
Right?
right.
But, like, I don't know about looks around at random things around. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to talk to elders that just woke up.
Oh no, you
Ways.
generally, well, the thing is with that, you generally don't. I can do it because I have protections, and one, because despite me acting like a complete prick, I don't have a follow-up to that. But I can do it. Take me at my word. It's true.
We all know by now that your pants are just as scuffed around the knees as the rest of ours.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the
trick
day...
is, when it comes to elders, is that make sure that there's food in the room for them.
Just... What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
That means that when there's a whole group of hunters somewhere, you're not gonna kill them and then get killed by the elder because they're hungry.
Okay, let's not talk about the H word too openly.
Like 5 minutes ago?
He speaks the truth. The last thing that we want to do is cause a general panic.
Yeah, look, all I'm gonna say is maybe it shouldn't have been publicly announced or something like that, lest we get like fucking...
It already has been, and why would we keep secrets from people that could save their lives?
Because it may end up ending ours.
Mr. Bagman is speaking to the rather circuitous point of how is it the information as it pertains to Lady Eliza's resting place became known? How is it that they were able to formulate a strike force as easily as they did? He is predicating the fact, though he is being rather circuitous in this manner, that there is a mole currently amongst us, possibly even in this room.
Or...
I didn't know any of this until I got here today.
Yeah, and in addition to that, right, what do you think some vamps are gonna do when they figure out, oh, there's some big bad hunters in town? Half of them are gonna think, oh, fuck, I bet I could use that to overthrow this tyrannical bad guy that fucking I hate because of some stupid thing he did 20 years ago to me. And then we'll make up ending the situation worse because he's fucking stupid and is in over his head and doesn't actually know how to manipulate a fucking group of hunters who actually know what they're fucking doing. Or they're like, oh fuck, I need to get the fuck out of here, and in doing so, fucking makes themselves a fucking easy target, gets captured, and then ends up getting fucking tortured or some shit and rats on the rest of us. Like, we're like fucking... Problem is, it's a powder keg, right? And the powder keg can either it can go off on its own and it fucking explodes and blows everything up, or you can have a controlled blast, you put it in the middle of the desert, let it go off, and then you're like, okay, the desert got fucked up, but at least the rest of us are fine. And that's how I see it. Like, you gotta control the flow of information, because you're not just controlling the flow of information to your immediate vicinity, but you're controlling how it flows from all those nodes past that point.
I get what you're saying, but I still do not really agree with you fully.
Well, yeah, that's because you're like, truth and justice for all, shakes fist. but the world doesn't really work like that. Which, hey, it sucks, because I wish you're right, but it doesn't. Not even because people suck, they're just stupid. That's the thing,
I think
right?
a lot of people suck.
Yeah, a lot of people suck, don't get me wrong, but that's not actually the issue. The issue isn't that they're bad, or evil, or whatever label you want to apply to them, right, and like, they're immoral or whatever. That's not actually the problem. The problem is that they're incapable.
The unfortunate thing about stupid people is that sometimes they can be surprising.
Yeah, well, it's...
Do things that smart people wouldn't even think of, because surely no one would do that.
Yeah, because even though I disagree
It's
with you,
so
I think...
surprising.
Yeah, because even I disagree with you, but I think you're rational. You will generally not fuck up. Because you generally know what the common sense thing to do is. Unfortunately, one, we have an angry monster inside us that wants to eat our fucking soul. And two, a lot of us get drunk, basically get fucking punch drunk on all of our new fancy toys that we call the gifts of the blood, or disciplines, or whatever you want to call it. Or superpowers. Fuck.
I like superpowers.
I mean, it's funny, but don't say it in front of an elder, because then they'll be like, stop disrespecting your lineage, you fucking cur. And, you know, I mean, fair enough. I can respect that. But a lot of us get drunk on power, which causes us to make very irrational decisions. Because we'd stop thinking in the long term, we think in the short term. That's why elders get to be elders, because they think in the long term and they never stopped thinking in the long term.
It is the premise of the individual who is suddenly given a taste of the chalice of power. They can do amazing things. However, unfortunately, even the most elder and venerable kindred, well, it goes to their head.
Yeah, the problem is, instead of taking a taste of the chalice and sipping on it over the course of the night, they decide to fucking down it and end up collapsing onto the table, spilling the jug all over the place, and spilling it all over their guests, and on that one really bulky guy in the middle of a bar who's suddenly really pissed off. He's got fucking chalice wine spilt all over him, and now he's like, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking face now, you prick, because you fucking spilt shit on me. And that bulky guy is the H guy in this analogy. He's the guy you pissed off because you decided to drink all the stuff. And then the noble rambler, you get the point. The point is that
You're rambling.
The point is that people think in the short term, because they think in the short term, they get drunk on power, and that causes them to lose sight of what's important, because they get too focused on the game. They get so focused on the game that they forget how to play the game. They forget how to do the dance.
And to be honest with you, I find that using human weapons, methodologies of humanity, are far more effective, and they are not nearly as brutal. I think that our powers are meant to supplement our abilities, not to compensate for the lack of them.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's why you get turned in the first place. You're not getting turned because you have a bunch of fancy powers at the end of it. That doesn't really make sense. Because if that was the purpose, then whoever was doing it, whatever vamp decided to do it, would just embrace anybody. But they're not. They're choosing someone specific. They're choosing you. They're choosing me. They're choosing Coldmorn. Right? And they're choosing us because we have something about us that makes us special. And that's kind of the tragedy, right? Is that we all lose sight of that in the end. Fuck, that got depressing.
You need a hug.
Yeah, I'll have a
I
hug.
find it interesting, honestly.
You're a creepy graveyard lady. We all die in the end. Nothing fucking matters.
I mean, I know that better than anybody.
Yeah, sucks.
That can do for a nihilist, really. Like, but you do
There's some
care,
comfort in
actually.
nihilism.
That's kind of refreshing, I suppose.
I would argue.
Nihilism doesn't need to be a pessimistic philosophy.
Well,
I would
no,
argue-
that's the stereotype, right? Yeah.
The entirety of the kindred condition is inherently nihilism.
I mean,
They kind of comforting.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't agree on that one. That last one. No,
I mean-
no, that.
All right. He says as he's hugging Figment. Look, all I'm gonna say is that I don't give it that much thought. And to be honest, I don't really care. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me. He lets go, Figment. You're really fucking cold. I should really have not expected anything better. The rest of the kindred in the hall, like, some are just looking at this very awkward interaction of Bagman comically hugging Figment, and they're just like, what the fuck is this? Is it... that's Bagman, he's doing something fucked up.
In character, I'm holding back the laughter, but it is there a bit.
Yeah, so, look, alright, get back on topic. Let's not use the H word around a bunch of people, particularly now that I've hugged someone and now I look creepy and Figment looks creepy and everybody thinks we're creepy. And I'm probably listening
I
to this
really
conversation.
don't think hugging changes anything.
If it helps, both of you looked creepy prior to that instance.
I mean,
But
I
shouldn't
pride
we
myself
just-
on it.
Shouldn't we just finish this conversation by saying we'll meet for poker at her place?
I mean,
Yeah,
I
got poker.
may or may not show up. I can't make promises. My work is, I have a very regular work schedule, but I'll try.
Didn't you just spend a lot of time saying that you cannot break your promises?
Well, that's why he said he's not going to promise. 'cause he doesn't
Yeah,
want to-
that's what I'm
okay.
doing. I'm distancing myself from the promise. That way I can just sort of ignore whatever the fuck someone asks me to do.
Well,
Also-
if you show up for poker night, it will be a pleasant surprise for all of us.
Yeah, be careful though. I mean,
Hmm?
That's the sort of statement usually people want finished.
I thought there was going to be more to that statement, like, thanks.
let's just say I'm going to be showing up to Elysium a little bit less frequently with all the news running around.
Yes, I think it is time that we start to castle. He says that
Like in
term.
chess?
It's a term that all of the Invictus should immediately understand.
Like in chess?
Kind of. To Invictus, it basically means secure.
No, Figment says this in character. Are you replying in character, or are you telling Terry this?
He will look at you and he will say, "A very similar principle, yes, my dear."
Yeah, basically. Alright, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Alley Cat, actually, fuck it. One sec. He'll just take out a piece of paper, write it down. Rather, no, actually what he'll do instead is he'll send you his number via text. That's the number. It will not be my number for very long, so make use of it. Call me in for the job. Whenever.
Group text? Group text? Group
No.
text?
No.
Group text?
Now, if people start
Aw.
group texting me, I'm ditching this phone. You think I'm joking?
Chris, can we all get Bagman's number?
And put it in a group text?
Yeah. This won't be my number for very long. I have places that that you can go to. I don't go to them. And there are look, if you want to get in contact with me, just talk to. I mean, you can talk to fucking half of the Invictus. Word will travel. It might take a few nights, but I'll get back to you, and I'll get in touch with you. Just make it known you want to reach me, and I'll reach you.
I like graffiti.
Yeah, I know how to reach you, Alley Cat. Don't worry.
Heck.
I'll get to you within less than a night. Don't worry.
Colborne will stand and he will incline his head to us. He says, "I have one last pressing piece of business to do this evening before I can retire. I should bid you all good evening."
And I think with that handled, we can end the scene there. Unless anybody has anything else they'd like to do.
I did briefly want to talk to one of your NPCs, Chris, because they are here.
Which one?
And it's the Archbishop.
Ah. Yeah, the Archbishop. She's just sort of sitting around with other members of the Sanctified.
Coldmorn is going to saunter up. Hey, Figment.
Hmm?
You know how we have fun whenever we do wacky adventures?
Correct.
Do you want to get in on a wacky adventure?
I love wacky adventures.
Excellent. I will tell you about this wacky adventure when I'm done setting up the wacky adventure. But he will walk towards the Archbishop, and he bows very respectfully to them.
Good evening, sir. I do not believe we have met.
We have not, my lady. Balthazar Coldmorn. A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Pleasure. What can I do for you on this fine evening?
It's, as a matter of fact, what I can do for you. Would you have a few moments for a private word?
The table is yours.
Thank you. He will seat himself. I've heard some rather disturbing rumors. I consider myself to be a member of the faithful, and frankly, Your Grace, what I have been told, it rankles me. That there's apparently... He kind of glanced left, glanced right to make sure they're not being overheard. That there's apparently a Hellfire Club in operation within this fair city.
Or some Malfessian equivalent, yes.
I think that I speak on behalf of myself and the laity when I say that this can truly not be allowed to stand.
I would like to see to it that it is such actions are given their appropriate consequences.
You see, as I've said, I'm a big believer in the methodologies of humanity dealing with the methodologies of the night. Many of our kind are entirely ill-equipped to deal with the day-to-day world that they find themselves in, and I find that... how to best phrase? I find that tax audits and foreclosures, as well as termination of leases or declaration of public buildings as conservation sites, are far more effective than guns, knives, and swords. And I wish to let you know that I intend to put an end to this sordid little business, and make it so that these individuals who have decided to profane in such a horrific way are put out on the street where they belong. No harm occurring to anyone, of course, but it's just good business, you understand.
I believe I do. Although... I don't believe it would set the example the city needs to see.
As I've said, I believe that examples can be made in time, but first steps are first. He will smile before he will say, I merely wished to inform you that for the good of the, well, the moral and spiritual essence of this city, that I would take some action on your behalf. I don't require anything as payment or any sullied mitigation of that or of that nature, though I would very much like your blessing. As a priest to a penitent.
If you would see to it that those who have decided to throw in their lot with hell get their due, then you would have it.
I thank you, my lady. My apologies. I've kept you far longer than I should. I hope you're having a pleasant evening.
I am.
He will smile. He will stand. He will. He puts on his hat at this moment in time, but and he will claim his coat. And he's going to sidle on out because that was the only thing I actually needed to do to further a plot. Continue with life.
Then I think with that plot furthered, we shall end the scene now. If anybody else wishes to have conversations with any of the characters in this scene or in Elysium, they can contact me and I'll set a date for it. But with that settled, we'll end the scene there. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.